Hey VC, Big Star 1000 with a new installment of Revolutions, a series in which I showcase what I've been playing. I hope this 25 minutes, half an hour you're going to spend with me is going to be distracting you a little bit from the crap that's going on around the world at the moment. It's very hard to not think about it, but you know, that's the way it seems to be going at the moment. Today's Good Friday, a very strange kind of Good Friday because you really can't hang out with your relatives or your loved ones or your friends. Or it's a very strange. These are very strange times. Anyway, let me ramble about records for a minute. And the first record I want to show you here is this record by Broadcast, the noise made by people. I love Broadcast. They're surely one of the best bands to come out of the last 20 years. Sadly, they are no more, as Trish Keenan, the singer, died. She was aged 40 or 42 or something. And this is, I don't know which number album it is by Broadcast, but in any case, they're all worth checking out. I mean, Ha Ha Sound is brilliant. I think Ha Ha Sound would be my favorite Broadcast album, but maybe this comes close second. There's a track called You Can Fall here, which you should check out just to give you an idea of what Broadcast sounds like. They're from Birmingham in England. And they're very, very much like Stereolab. If you know Stereolab and you like Stereolab and you've explored all the Stereolab you can explore and you want something else, Broadcast is. You could put some Broadcast tracks on the Stereolab compilation. Nobody would know at times. Very influenced by the same kind of things. Things with modular synth from the 60s and crat rock, lots of Can. I'm sure they listen to very similar things. I love them. They're a great band, and I highly recommend them. To the question, what is the greatest solo Beatle album? The answer could be Ram. At times I do think that Ram is the best solo Beatles record. I have 3 copies of this record. Why 3? Because they were cheap, and I just love the songs on this, the story behind it. As an album, it just works so well. It's very McCartney, back to front. Some of the songs verge a little bit on the cheesy, like Monkberry Moon Delight, for example, but there's songs like Long Haired Lady, or Uncle Albert, or Dear Boy, or Smile Away. The whole thing is, I just think the whole thing is amazing. I just love Ram. I don't know why or how. Sort of an album that I've played non-stop in the past maybe 2-3 years. At least since my wife died. 2 years now. I just don't know. It's Ram. It just does something to me. It's a toss between Ram, Plastic Ono Band, and All Things Must Pass. So there you go. This is the Associates. They're a band from Scotland, from the late 70s, early 80s. This is the album's called Sulk. And the Associates sort of, the sound is close to sort of a Bowie meets Kraftwerk meets Talk meets, like it's got kind of this sophisticated pop, art rock, art pop, synth pop, all merged into one. If you like, Bowie and records by Rishi Sakamoto and say Kraftwerk and the Yellow Magic Orchestra, you like this. This is beautiful. This is really undoubtedly the best record. Try out, for example, White Car in Germany, which is a great song. This is from 1981, I think, or thereabouts. 82. Excuse me. In the same vein, sort of the same vein-ish, is DEF, Deutsch-Amerikanische Freundschaft. You know, the sort of, yeah, the soft cell of Germany. I think they're a better band than Soft Cell personally. You got the two members, Roberts, whatever his name, and Gabby, whatever his name, and I think Gabby died recently. I think it's Robert Göhler and Gabby, whatever his name is. So yeah, one of these two guys passed away. I think it was Gabby, the singer. And this is a record that I really like. Love songs like Verschwende deine Jugend and Ich will. It's a great record. The opening song, what's it called? Love at First Sight, Liebe auf den ersten Blick. That's a great song. This is recommended, as are the other records, kind of synth pop. Another sort of new wave synth pop record that I've played this week is Ultravox. Ha 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 is the name of the album. That's one of their first records, maybe the second record, possibly. I don't know. I think still with John Fox on lead vocals. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. If it was Mid-Euro, just slap me. But I think it's a John Fox led record. And produced by Steve Lillywhite. The very first, I think, no, maybe it's a Mid-Euro record. I can't remember. My head's scrambled. It's weird times. But I love this record, and I love like songs like Distant Smile. It's beautiful, and there's another song on the other side. I just thought, Hiroshima Mon Amour. It's great. Yeah, it's great. A record that I bought last year in Germany when I was traveling there is a Tangerine Dream. This is called Don Quixote. I think the pronunciation in English is Quixote, which is a very well-known Spanish novel. This record is on Amiga, which is the East German states run label. It used to be if you lived in East Germany at the time of the communist Germany, Berlin Wall, you could access Western music through Amiga. Amiga was the state label. And so this is interesting, and I really love having this piece in my collection. I mean, Amiga released thousands of records, but I just think of, who in East Germany bought this thing and listened to it, and it just blows me away a little bit, what kind of person had. And this is a great Tangerine Dream record. That doesn't really sound like a Tangerine Dream record. It's got way more acoustic instrumentation than they normally use. I don't know where you would find this. If you live in Germany, surely you can find this quite easily, but as I did last year. Here's a record that I featured in my top 30 of the decade, and I still maintain this album is absolutely to die for. This is Darkside, the project by Nicholas Jarre and Dave Harrington. Now, Nicholas Jarre has released many solo records, and he's released this year already, I think, two new albums. One under the name Against All Logic, which is really good, and one under his own name, which it sounds really fantastic, more ambient stuff. Oh, there's nothing there. But Darkside is totally fabulous. Electronic, kind of some krautrock influences. It's a fantastic record. I spun for the first time in probably a couple of years this Vangelis record, Hypothesis. This is not your typical Vangelis record. It's more like a jazz record, really. It's got Tony Oxley on drums there, and Michel Ripoche, French violinist. So it's got a more jazz fusion kind of approach. It's not like one of your typical synth Vangelis. This is part 2 of a session that he recorded for Byg Records in France. And he really didn't want these to be issued. The first part's called The Dragon. The Dragon's kind of like an Eastern jam, like a Turkish, Greek, Eastern jam with lots of like traditional instruments. One of the best records surely under the Vangelis name. I don't know why he doesn't like it, but I think it's a sublime piece of work. Hypothesis is not so good, it's not as good as The Dragon, but yeah, it is part 2 of his Byg Recordings. A comp which I recommend to everyone who likes psychedelic music, krautrock, rock, prog, kind of, it's a comp on soul jazz record called Venezuela 70, which I bought quite a while ago, and I sort of was listening to it on YouTube, and I just kept coming back to it, and so I bit the bullet and bought it probably maybe like a year ago, and played it a lot in that time. It's got like key acts like Vitus Brenner and Miguel Angel Fuster, Angel Rada. You know, the Vitus Brenner tracks are brilliant. There's like there is one. I thought there was more than one track. I know there's other tracks on the second volume. Volume 2 has got more Vitus Brenner tracks, but this is brilliant. Cosmic Vision of Latin America. I've spoken about this record before. It's great. Big Yawn, No, a local Melbourne record, and I play it a lot. So I just I love this record. Kind of like, you know, a jazzy electronic Australian release, instrumental, very sort of like Aphex Twin meets, yeah, I don't know, a sort of yeah, live electronic with real instruments, and very jazzy as well. From this year on Research Records, which is the same label as Mild Life. This is properly killer. Pill and Can in one band. Jay Wobble from Pill, and Jackie Liebetzeit and Olga Tsukai from Can. So a wonderful piece of music. Very dubby, post-punk. This whole thing is amazing. It's amazing. Okay, yesterday morning I was playing this classical record, modern classical, Alexander Skarbin. These are interpretations by Roberto Sidon on Deutsche Grammophon. This is a double LP of works by a Russian composer called Alexander Skarbin. There he is, who lived in the early part of the 20th century, was a devotee of Chopin, and it shows a lot of these piano sonatas are very influenced by a kind of impressionistic style. It's beautiful stuff. I highly recommend this if you like solo piano. I'm thinking of doing some more Gimme Tens and maybe one on solo piano, because it is undoubtedly one of my favorite styles of well, that's not a style of music per se, but like you know, to choose what to play, a beautiful solo piano thing a record is often a good choice for me. Lots of jazz. A revisit of the John Betch Society Earth Blossom, which originally came out on Strata East. This is a reissue, but you know, I mean, I'm not made of money, so I'm happy with this. I bought this quite a few years ago when it was still cheap. You could buy these reissues for quite cheap at the time. This is a avant-garde jazz, free jazz record from what's year, 1974. Some of it very, very melodic, very spiritual jazz. Spiritual jazz is often melodic, you know, it's very, and some of it quite, you know, free jazz, avant-garde jazz, jarring, more abrasive stuff. Especially the last couple of tracks, which are more into the, go more in the free kind of territory. An absolute masterpiece of soul jazz this time, The Dealer by Chico Hamilton. This is an original French press, I think on Impulse. This is a superb showcase of the abilities of Larry Coryell as a guitar player. I think it could probably be my favorite Larry Coryell record, come to think of it. The Dealer, you know, Baby, you know, Larry of Arabia, and the lineup is great. So it's got Archie Shepp as well on piano, and Richard Davis on bass, and Arnie Lawrence on alto sax. Produced by Bob Thiele. Must have, must have. You know, in a jazz collection, I reckon must have. Here is a superb record by a Japanese pianist called Rio Fook. There it is. This is a reissue on We Release Jazz. This is the other lesser known album by Rio Fook. Everybody knows the red one with his face on it, which has got a much better sleeve and is often seen as kind of like the one to get, you know, like it's. I think the YouTube algorithm is tricking people into thinking things. But this is a much better record, in my opinion. This is just my opinion, all right. Remember, this is called Melodream, and this is a beautiful piano jazz record where you can hear the stylings of Keith Jarrett and Chick Corea by a Japanese self-taught pianist, and there is a monster track on this called Horizon. It's 9 minutes 27. So these are a trio, but like, it cooks so hard, like, you know, it just goes into a sort of nearly jazz funk territory, but on acoustic piano. This is a highly recommended record. And I think it's better than Scenery. Scenery is the other record that I've got it too, but I think this is a better record overall. Here is an absolute milestone on the Blue Note catalogue, Dialog by Bobby Hutcherson. I'm really into Blue Note at the moment, don't know why, just something about the label that just, with a killer lineup, Freddie Hubbard, Sam Rivers, Bobby Hutcherson, Andrew Hill on piano, Richard Davis and Joe Chambers on drums. This probably is, it's got to be top 10 Blue Note. Gotta be. It's. There's no two way about it. This session is. It's an amazing post-bop record. Tremendous. Here's another tremendous record, and this time this one is on CTI. It's Joe Farrell with Moon Germs, with another killer lineup. Look at this: Herbie Hancock and Stan Clark and Jack DeJohnette. Great funky fusion album. I mean, completely enthralling music. Brilliant. Yes, Moon Germs. The title track is amazing. And the bass folk song as well. Yeah, 1972. Is a record that I bought in a charity shop for $1 about 10 years ago. And when you think about what you could buy in charity shop then, and it doesn't happen. I bought this only on the strength that it was on BSF MPS, and I thought it could be a bit cheesy. This is Art Farmer with Jimmy Heath and a bunch of German musicians on this. The first track, which is like kind of a samba, kind of it's called Cascavello, it starts a bit cheesy and you just think, oh yeah, it's going to probably be one of these records. But if you persist with this, it's actually really good sort of modal jazz, post-bop record. You know, it really is. It's excellent. Just to think what I paid for it. Thrilled. I was in Simande, or whatever the pronunciation of that band is. We'll say Simand, so the people record. This is I think the second album. It's called Promise Heights. And really, if you like me, you love the first Simon album with the dove on it. That's a masterpiece. I mean, really, it's very hard to top. But if you love that, this picks up pretty much where that one left off. It is completely brilliant again. These were a large group of West Indian migrants to London from various islands, from, I don't know, no, not Trinidad. Well, some of these islands, you know, I'm tired. But it's a beautiful record. Very highly recommended. This was, I think, the Mr. Bongo reissue of it. Almost finished. Last week I was talking about Black Power, which was a Portuguese Cape Verdean record. A viewer, Miguel Silva, just wrote a note underneath and said, "Oh, you know, have you heard of Bonga?" Or he just gave me a couple of recommendations of records, and I do have the Bonga records. In fact, I probably will play them next week or something, pull them out. But in Portugal, I also bought this jazz funk record, Bamboo by Rio Fook. Rio Fook is a very well-known Portuguese sax player, and he plays the flute as well. And this is his second or his third record, and it features a kind of a who's who of the Portuguese jazz scene. And yes, Rio Fook plays a lot of flutes, and he plays tenor saxophone and alto sax. And this is like your typical kind of funky jazz band with, you know, piano and double bass and all that. It's a beautiful record. Starts kind of cheesy, but it's just like the Art Farmer, just goes into a mode after a while. The last record I'm going to show you today is an Indo jazz fusion. If you're familiar with the Joe Harriet records, Indo jazz, this is very similar. It's called Carrot Jazz. It's one of these treasures that you find on this budget label called Music for Pleasure. It's a mix between jazz musician and an Indian band, this features, you know, sitar, tambura, flute, and then you've got Kenny Wheeler on flugelhorn and Jeff Klein on bass and Billy Aiden on drums. This is superb, really. And again, I was thinking of doing Gimme 10 on solo piano. I might do a Gimme 10 on British jazz, because I think it's worth exploring. Anyway, I love you all, and I hope you enjoy this installment. And talk to me. And, you know, it is what it is.